no, and I hit the wrong mouse button. Oh my gosh. My name is Ryan Erickson. We are here with, I believe, episode 45 of Beta Codex Live. And with me, as always, is Niels Flagging. Hello, Niels. And we have a special guest today, do we not?
Yes, she's returning, Ryan, right? Because pretty much one of the first sessions, Open Beta Codex Live sessions, we did it with Silke as a super special guest, because that was the episode in which we did the 5 years of OpenSpace Beta anniversary. More than 1 year ago, right? A year and 2 months ago.
Gosh, quite a bit. Yes. So without further ado, Silke, hello.
Hi, nice to see you, Ryan.
Silke, it's good to have you back on Beta Codex Live. You are the world's first leading specialist on beta transformation, OpenSpace Beta, I might say. I hope I come to a close second, but I think it's fair to say that you are the world's leading expert on this stuff. So yes, and we just published a paper on OpenSpace Beta patterns. So good to have you back.
Thank you very much.
Ryan, what do you think about this episode? What do you expect from it?
My expectation is that we'll share the beautiful learnings of at least the past year or so from successful and transformation and the challenges experienced within those transformations. And I hope to ask questions that will provide some insight to folks and be valuable. That's what I hope from this episode, and maybe I'll show a bit of the paper too. So,
Silke, what's your expectation? How about you?
I don't know. I just thinking about the title, because you named this new research, and I think this is not exactly maybe the right expression. I think it's more something like the outcome of, I think, ongoing research work as well. So this is not a special research work what we have done and then we put this in this white paper. It's more or less, it's something that we thought now we have made so many different experiences with our own clients, with clients of colleagues, with supervision work, and now it becomes much more clear what kind of patterns we see always, and that it makes sense to write this down and to explain this maybe to other colleagues or companies who are interested to do something like OpenSpace Beta.
Yeah, that's a great point. I mean, I suggested the new research tagline. Interesting.
Well, I think I did it because we did that for the cell structure design.
Yes, but I think it's a very good point. Maybe that's a great starting point for our conversation, because what I meant, I think, not sure if you suggested it, Ryan, or I did, because what I mean is newly published research. But it's really an interesting point, Silke. Great that you mentioned it. It's not that we set out a couple of weeks ago to research something fresh, but this is really the kind of thing that you and I, Silke, with our work with Red 42, we thought about doing for a long time already, right?
No, I think 6 years experience.
Yes. I remember that when we did the first OpenSpace Beta transformation with FSM and Andreas at the time, 2019, we already had this conversation about writing up learnings from that. And you said, it's too early. Or I said, it's too early, something like that. Now it's not too early anymore. Why do you think it's not too early anymore to publish this?
I think after now, we have all these different kind of cases in different sizes of companies, in different areas, in different countries. And now it becomes much more clear that we have that we see these patterns, and that these kind of patterns do not depend on the environment of the client. Yeah. And I think this is a point, because in the starting time, I was not sure if it has to do with the people in charge, or with a company, or with a special situation, or with us, or whatever. Yes. So in the meantime, I think we are pretty sure that these are patterns. They come out from the content and of the social dynamic, what people yes, experience in this time. Yeah.
Yes, yes, yes. May I add that during the first several OpenSpace Beta transformations that we did, we always wondered, is this noise or is this a pattern already, right? And we had sometimes vigorous conversations on truth and perception and so on. I think it's fair to say, right? So we're pretty sure that the 14 patterns that we are describing in this new paper are not random or noise, right?
Yes, and I think the list is maybe it becomes something like a working document. So I think I'm not sure that these are the 14 patterns. It's something what came in our mind and what was really obvious. I think there are a few more, and I think we tried a little bit to bring them in the structure and to, you will see the character of these patterns are really different. Some of these patterns have to do with social dynamics, and other ones have to do with this kind of work, really content-wise. And maybe yes, we can. I'm curious what Ryan perceived when you had your look in this new paper.
Ryan did the reviewing, the copy editing, so to say.
And thank you very much for this. You were pretty fast.
And did it twice.
Yeah, we did go through a couple iterations, and the first time I went through, I only looked at the 14 patterns instead of all 14 pages, which is so. This is one thing. I was looking at the language. So the concepts, there were a couple concepts that were not necessarily super new, but just this is part of that was the tandem teaching part, and. Yeah, the tandem meetings was very interesting. And again, we could certainly go through all of them. I mean, that's
we shouldn't. I think we shouldn't take away the pleasure of reading from people. But we might highlight a few things and talk about why we can pick up a few to discuss what you found interesting about them. The tandem sessions, by the way, that's one topic that is explored in the handbook. Just for anybody listening, we explain this on half a page, I think. How tandem sessions work, but we went back to in the context of communication formats. We went back a little bit to that and added something to it. I think it's fair to say that nothing that we write in this paper has been published in the book. Some people might suspect that they filled a book with that stuff already, the handbook, and now they are rehashing the same thing. It's not the same thing. It's really stuff that we think surprised us, right, Silke?
Yes, and I think maybe it's not obvious when you read this, but there are really a few things we really learned for ourselves. So we expected we can go through the patterns, and some patterns you can see that we expected something completely different. Yes. And in the first cases, we were really surprised that our idea how this should now happen was not working in this way. And after a while, it's okay. It's my point, my view, or my expectation, or my kind of logic. And I think it's very important to share this, because I think it's not necessary that everyone make crazy experience as well.
The same mistakes we already made. Yes, I mean, there's currently some colleagues are starting with an OpenSpace Beta chapter, we think, in Argentina, probably, supposedly. We will see if that works out. So they shouldn't repeat the same stuff. Or Ryan, you shouldn't repeat the same stuff doing this OpenSpace Beta work in the United States, or wherever you will do it in the future.
Well, one thing I wanted to say, as we're talking through it, the words field guide came in. This is kind of like the learnings from the field.
Yes.
Again, the theory that is there in the book and the research supporting that this is what do we learn from that practice in the field. And I would like to at least read through what the patterns are. Not that we have to go through any of them, because I had some. I think there's one in particular that actually, that Niels, you and I, when we were talking about it, I totally misunderstood. And
yeah. Okay.
yes,
Let's go into
so
that one. Yeah. Which
yeah,
one?
so so I'm going to put that here. Let me get this right. If I can make it bigger.
So this is the page where we show the titles of all these 14 patterns, right? It's at the start of the paper. So before we go into the details, we have a list of the 14 patterns we identified.
Yeah. So sponsor directs his or her given authority, working the system together. That's fine. Again, those of you who are out there, I'm not going to read these to you because you can read. If we look at this, the one that I was really kind of not flummoxed by, I think it's there's some about narratives that people will take narratives for. Which pattern is that?
Writing the story, number 11.
Okay, number 11. Writing the story and telling the story are wildly different matters. Don't expect the same people to do both. So that when I looked at that first, it was okay. So the people who don't depend on people that are telling negative stories, that there won't be time to share negative stories or
exactly. You understood it was about negative stories.
Yeah, and you're also saying that and this is what I want to hear. Where did this learning come from? What did you observe that caused you to put that there?
This is one of the toughest learnings, by the way, I think, right? This hurt. This hurt. Silke, do you want to talk about it?
Please.
Yes, I think this pattern was as well in the first case very, very easy to observe. And what we did in all other cases where I was in, I told the client in advance, this is a problem, though, that the people who are really deep engaged in the process, or people who bring a lot of ideas, creativity, and themselves into the process, think always that their work is enough. It speaks for itself.
They think it's obvious. What they created is obvious to everyone, which it isn't.
Yeah, so we are doing something good. We are sharing. We are working in a transparent way. So, and this is a very big invitation to all these others to join and to feel well. So
that's what those deeply involved in the transformation work think. Yes.
But they are not aware of that. They are really deep in the process, so that their own ability to explain this in a proper way, usually under time pressure, is something what is not working well. So, and then there comes this irritation and sometimes all this frustration. We are doing so much and nobody is aware of this, or some people, by the way, as well, telling negative stories. So this is what's happened as well. So when a part of the colleagues who are not so deep involved and maybe with concerns or with another agenda, all this happens. They have all the time, every day, to tell something more or less negative. So, and they're really not aware of this. And you can always, what I tried is in the beginning to say, please be aware of this and please put your attention on this, but it doesn't help. So, yes, okay, when this happened, I can just say, oh, then do you remember I told you so? But,
which is not exactly what consultants earn their money with.
Yeah, it leads to nothing. And I think it's much more important that that it's to organize the process in a way where this is not necessary. So that sometimes you have colleagues who love to tell stories, to talk with everyone. But these are usually other colleagues and the colleagues who are really deep in the creation part.
Yeah, so in a way you need people who work on the conceptual stuff and enjoy it, and you need in parallel, which is not trivial, people who tell the story of how that conceptual work is unfolding to everyone. And that is, it's not trivial to set that up, to make that happen. Of course, tandem sessions come into that.
And you know never in advance who are the people in which role. You just don't know. You have an idea, maybe. But in this weeks with a very high social dynamic, you have a lot of shifts. So you cannot plan this, never ever. So you have to be always very sensitive and and to test it. Sometimes you have to test it. Who is the right person in the right role? Who can just to figure this out? But you cannot plan this yet. Oh, good, you're a storyteller and you know everybody and you're a great networker. Please do this. Doesn't work as well, and it cannot work well.
It will not work all by itself. You need to put effort into that. You need to set this up in a way. By the way, conceptually, that appears in the book and appears in the OpenSpace Beta concept. The concept is called deliberate storytelling, right? Deliberate storytelling. Mm-hmm. Or deliberate narratives? No, deliberate storytelling.
Storytelling. Right?
Mm-hmm.
I was looking for it in the diagram there.
It is there in the 90 days. Did you find it?
No, but I wanted to come back and say when again in the open space agility work that was adapted, there's the idea of leadership storytelling, which is put in there, and I think there's a distinction here to talk about. You're talking about this is the people who are doing the flipping. There are people who have mastery in the communication side of it, as well as the folks who are doing a different part of the flips. And this is what I think also comes back from the Cotter work. The Cotter work is that leadership that there's talking and talking and talking from the leaders. Again, this is I understand it. Blow it up if you want to, but that there's this consistency of narrative. What I'm hearing here and what it seems you found was that the consistency of narrative comes from folks who are in the work, seeing the work, and this is how it happens, and because they have mastery in the communication arts, that helps. So
as you mentioned John Cotter, Ryan, may I add something?
Please.
Not sure which book or concept you are referring to by leadership or leaders telling stories. Also, when I worked a long time with Our Iceberg is Melting story, right? And in that story, you have these different penguins that have names, and some of them are very conceptually oriented. Some of them have positional power, some of them have reputational power. And there is one of the penguins, which I will always remember, that has influence, right? In power and informal structure. Do you guys remember the name of that penguin in the story?
I think
he's beautiful.
The character was a little bit stupid, so that you completely.
He's a bit dumb, but very good looking. Everybody loves him, especially the female penguins. It's a very nice part of the story. And that penguin is called Buddy. And Buddy is used at a crucial point in that story to turn around there is insecurity mounting in the colony, penguin colony, and so on. And they use Buddy to create a sense of confidence and trust in the effort and so on. So in a way, that is related very much. I think you need buddies.
Very close.
And I love the name Buddy. Buddy types, because you have these people who work on the cell structure design and on relative targets who do their best to crunch numbers and crunch concepts, and think about team constellations and the setup of all cells and how the process will unfold. And they will not be able to tell good stories lightly and with a smile on their face, and they will not be able to charm the others into.
Buddy is charming.
Energy to look at, I think. Silke, did I put that right, or was it terrible?
No, I think this is exactly this. Let me try to compare this, maybe something in a little bit stupid way. Okay. So it doesn't work, but maybe a little bit like this. When you go on social media, on LinkedIn, and you write something or you comment something, you can be never concentrated to do conceptual work. It's impossible. Because you're always interrupted. So when you do this in a more or less professional way, with consistency, so this is a completely different kind of work.
Yeah.
So for example, for myself, it's impossible to go there when I have something important on the table. So these are two completely different kinds of work. And we think always, okay, you have to mix this and then do your work and then show your work and all these things. But it's not working well.
Also, great example of this, great example. I think another example of this is very successful authors, writers, who write books and who in a way must balance between writing time and then marketing time of their books. So they must have a rhythm in their calendar to when to write and when to do the public stuff, and it's for most of them, it's very hard to combine this during the same period. So they structure their year if they have an annual publishing rhythm, like some crime story writers, right? They usually structure their year so that they can write and do the communication stuff, and write and do the communication, but not all at the same time because it's just impossible, right? Nobody can do that. Yeah. Does that make sense?
I would say it makes from the outside looking, it makes sense because it's the focus and flow and that task switching and all that kind of it's like in that I need to be this, I need to create, I need to work through these concepts as I'm doing them. Someone, bops, hey, can you show me what you've done so far? Maybe I'm halfway through this. Maybe I need to rewrite this.
Exactly.
Like, this doesn't look like, no.
So you need people
in
the process within the 90 days who are confident enough to go out and tell a good story around it, and a fair story, and a transparent story, maybe even a critical story in a positive mood, while the stuff is not yet finished. And that is, I think, the biggest challenge, right? In the 90 days, when the storytelling is most needed, nothing is ready, so you need people who are confident enough to talk about it while it's being done.
And I think there's also, and I want to hear this too from your experience in the doing, is the telling of that story if it is incomplete work and following this principle of transparency. It's also pretty important that you bring this bad news, that there's no sanction, that it maybe in a change effort before, I got to tell this good story, even though the pieces are on the floor and I don't think myself it's ever going to work, but to come and say, hey, everything's green on my part of the project, but
that's a mistake. That's a misinterpretation that you just showed, right?
Well,
so you want to
I'm not saying that's in this. I'm saying that in a traditional world, a traditional change project. Okay, that's what I'm talking about.
Okay.
In a traditional change project,
in OpenSpace Beta, it's clear that these things will work out in due time. However, even though the stuff is not yet all around us, not launched, has not gone live. I mean, some of the patterns in the white paper are about the go live, or the moves before that. You need people who have fluency in forming narratives while the work is done. Silke, you want to add something? Maybe an example as well from our work?
I think this is really, I would not say the number one critical part, but it's really critical because I think this comes up in a time when the most of the colleagues are really asking serious questions, and these questions are always they have yes, it's clear that they have to be named. So it's like, when are we ready? What kind of teams will I be within? Who are my new colleagues? How does it work? When you can't tell me how this will work, how can I trust you? And all that. You are doing now conceptual work for weeks, but you are not able to explain me how this will work in detail. All these things. So and then you say, okay, what is the answer? So in this time, there's a lack always, between the people who are really deep in, and they usually, and this is good to see, they're really self-confident what they are doing. Yes. So there is no doubt because they put a lot of work and effort in details. And on the other side, it's clear that you cannot explain in the same way to a colleague who is far away from this kind of work. This means for you in your future work this and this and this.
And the feelings you will have in this
Yeah,
situation.
and this always produces a little bit of
discomfort, right? And disconnect.
Discomfort, maybe a little bit of frustration. And so this is, I would say, these are around 3 weeks, 4 weeks, maybe.
Yeah.
And they all then a little bit nervous in this time.
Some people might call that resistance. They don't.
That would be unfair. It's not at all. Not resistance.
What do you mean with this?
Well, that again, this idea of that there's this skepticism or wondering or uncertainty or dealing with it. But I'm saying that we've talked about this several times, that concept of there is no such thing as resistance to change. That there's this it's more about how's my status going to change? How's my work going to change? What's going on here? And I think he's mentioned uncertainty. And go ahead.
It's a great point. Thank you for raising it, Ryan. Of course, in our work, for example, Silke and I are often blindsided to the fact that many people would call that kind of behavior resistance to change, right? We would never think of it in that way. And to give a little bit of context, why does OpenSpace Beta work with time boxing and the 90 days of transformation? Why, for example, is the cell structure design being developed in the first half of the 90 days, so in the first, let's say, 30, 40 days of the 90 days. And then there is cell constitution process. The cells find themselves, constitute themselves, and then the go live still happens well within the 90 days, right? Why the speed? Why not be cool? Why not wait a little more? Why not take more time? Because the communicative gap is unbearable for a longer time. That's why OpenSpace Beta must be, that's why we believe organizational transformation must be very very fast, because then you can reduce this period of uncertainty.
You can name this like that.
And disconnect the feeling of, we are neither here nor there yet. You must compress it. And that's why the approach works like this. It cannot be faster than that. I mean, we explained that in the white paper, what happens in between. Silke, you want to add something about that?
Yes, and I think something when you just with this word resistance. So I think it makes sense to go there a little bit deeper. Yes, in every company or organization, there are a few people with another agenda. They have a hidden agenda. They don't want this. This happens. Yeah, it's natural. But they are just a few. And on the other side, the most people, we are all different. Some are early movers, some are late movers. Some people like to be involved. Others want to just to see something from the results. I think we are really different. And I think it's a question of respect to say, okay, there is not enough time that everyone can follow your own, how does it name in
speed and rhythm?
Your own rhythm,
tempo. Yeah.
And it's necessary not to judge about this. Yeah. So and I think this makes the work much more easier when you say, okay, please don't judge about this. And these just a few of them, they are really people who really have good reasons not to want this kind of transformation. And after a while, it's clear who are the one or the other person, and as well the reasons. So it becomes obvious, and all the others, I think it has something to do with different needs and
diversity and tolerance.
Diversity, right? And this is necessary to work on this.
But I think it's a very good point that you just made, Silke, that there will always be one or two or three or some few people who will work against the effort, who have a different agenda that diverges from the transformation agenda. And of course, John Cotter called this type in his fable. He called that type no. Yeah, there's one no-no in the story, so I think that matches well what we are trying to explain. It's always one or two or three people maybe. That's that requires a different kind of consequence, but it's important to tolerate that people move with different at different speeds and with different styles and have different characters. And to me, it took a while to learn that tolerance, and that's why we also work with psychological tools to understand the different dynamics that people will show, that will emerge during the process as well, right? Silke?
I think we have two extreme interpretations in all this area of change and transformation. The one is to say, okay, people usually, the most people do not want change. They are resistant. It's difficult to work with them. They are not willing, not able, not whatever. And on the other side, and I say it also in the direction to Ryan, for example, all people around who fell in love with OpenSpace as a format. Oh, I bring all people together and we will all become happy. So this is something. Yeah, so all people
Shiny
are
happy people.
And they all are then very excited and happy to be
collective lovemaking.
That's not. I mean, that's not what OpenSpace was originally about.
I know that.
But that's what it had become, and that hey, bring it peace and love and happiness. Yeah, but I think the reason why OpenSpace, and this is just again my way of the reason why it works so well in OpenSpace Beta is because there's a real issue. There's real complexity. No one has the answer. There's a potential for conflict. There is a deadline of yesterday, and there's lots of different viewpoints. And when those conditions
is made for OpenSpace Beta.
Exactly, and when those conditions are present, like they are with the transformation like this, there couldn't be a better form. But when you want to just get folks together and be happy and great, yeah, it's fine. But that's not what the real power of it is to produce.
It doesn't even work. I have seen open spaces collapse because there wasn't a theme, there was no urgency, there was no shared. No theme, no invitation, really, no interest. So not in our work, right? Not in our work.
It's passion and responsibility. Passion and responsibility. That I care and I want it to happen. And there has to be
a fucking problem. There must be a fucking problem.
Fuck yes, there must be a problem. It's the whole point.
Silke, you want to add something? I see it in your face. No?
I think I just wanted to make this distinction because I think this is what we can observe with it, how it's talked about change or transformation projects. Yeah, so
let's talk about change.
And it's both not true. So
changes. Oh, I was going to bring again, men of the 80s. Our Niels and I, the bass players. I was going to bring in changes. The Yes song is going to bring that in first to what we're doing here. But I wanted to shift a little bit toward a theme that was in the paper was around the speed at which cell structure designs happen.
Yeah, can you show the overview?
Yeah, sure. I think I'm in that page right now.
So this topic is about creative iterations around cell structure design get done rapidly. Yeah. Want to say something about it, Ryan?
Well, I think just looking 3 to a maximum of 4 weeks, not longer. And that's realizing if people, of 3 to 4 weeks, but you know what, that's turning a pyramid into a sphere in 3 to 4 weeks. And that is reconstellating folks. That is that is the flip that makes the flip. And I think, and that's I would imagine, and I think this is the curiosity. Do you start to see people's eyes open around, this is how communication happens. This is what it means to have social density. This is what it means to have our consultative decision-making processing and not being dependent on people. I mean, this is what a cell structure design is. Again, assuming there's some some pre-work done in the 45 days before, and that, oh, this is what it really looks like, and oh, I want to make that happen as soon as possible. But again, outside looking in, that has to be a big shift for folks.
Silke.
No, I would say. Was it surprising for you that the time is so short, or?
For me?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, it was because conceptually the breaking down of the pyramid into it's.
Do you have an idea why is this working so fast? Why is it possible in all organizations to do this kind of a very serious work just in a month? Why is it? There's a reason.
Why is it possible? Why does it work?
Yeah.
And why does it work in that period of time? Is that question?
Because usually people say, "Oh, this is not possible." It's something so important, so big, so extremely different what you want to create, so you can never do this in just a month.
Abolishing the whole departmental and
but why is it possible?
Business area structure,
because you don't have time to think about it.
We are talking about the concept, yes, to create this new concept. So why is it possible to do this in a month?
So my theory about it is it's because you don't have time to think about it in time to really say, oh, why? No, this is happening. This is happening. This is I think I read about this, a forced awareness that this is, okay, I'm here, I'm doing this, and no, it is developing the relationships to make it happen. That's my thought, is that the time box, the overall time box says, well, if this has got to happen, well, there's so much going on. This is the first thing. So this is I have the awareness to it. I focus on it. And then if people are focused on it together in that way, that's my intuition about why that would happen so fast.
Silke, you should add something.
Yeah. Or you.
Because I think what Ryan said is correct, right? It's the time boxes. Correct,
but I think this is
preparation time box. There are time boxes after having the cell structure design draft. You must take it live, so that requires the cell constitution. So it says there's limited time, and that alone creates energy.
I think it needs something different as well. So it's another point. I think the most important thing is that you bring people together who really know their own business in detail. So they are all really experts in their own business and work.
Well, let me say that's part of the 12 principles too, right?
Yeah, but
why are you laughing? I think this is something.
This is very, very important. What Silke just said,
and I think it's completely simple. I think the most people they hear say, it's obvious. What else? So,
for example, you cannot bring too many managers into that process, because usually many managers don't know shit about the business, and usually this is something that I had to. Silke, you made me remember this from different processes. Usually, there are some really odd people in that group. People who know the business very well, but who are not so easy to deal with. Yeah, who are a little bit nerdy, let's say, weird in a positive sense,
they're committed to their way of doing things, that their level of expertise.
Who are committed to the thing, to the work. They think the work is holy, and they know the details, and they hold unnerving monologues, if necessary, about the importance of the detail and the pride and the stuff that goes with it. So you need those people who are freakishly serious about this. Like musicians, take Nile Rodgers. I'm not sure if he's a nice person to work with, but he's certainly, or a great producer. You need those kind of people who go to the least.
Well, Steely Dan. Take Steely Dan, for example.
Take Peter Gabriel. We have a consensus about Peter Gabriel, right?
Yeah.
And so you need is that correct, Silke? I think you need to bring in people who might be unnerving, but who know the last detail. the hard
And
shit.
I think
The
it's always
system.
necessary that they are all critical thinkers, that they have a kind of mastery, that they are open-minded, that they are really committed to bring this to the best possible solution. And I think every organization has this kind of people.
Oh yeah.
There is
High
never
reputation,
this is not a
little
problem at
influence.
all. And to bring this kind of people together to make this kind of conceptual work. And this is really a booster. Usually these are people who in the daily work do not work together because they are in different departments,
they're
different background of expertise. So, and you bring them together. And when you have this, it's a booster, and this makes the quality of the concept.
Yes, and there is a power shift.
And this is, it's when you as an external, for me, it's always, it's not magic. I think it's just serious work. But when you see this, I become really proud because it's that this is great. This is completely different. This will work. There is no doubt about it.
It goes to a level, I think, where this group, when they start really working together, because usually I think Silke made an important observation there. Usually those people who come together for the self-structure design concept work, they do not know each other well. They probably do not like each other either. Or they do not find liking each other important as well. So all kinds of stuff. Yeah. So, but there's no magic. Once they find out that they can rethink the organization together in a totally different way, they fall in love with it. Beta, of course. And at the same time, that constellation produces a shift of power as well.
So this
shift of authority around reputation. They start to see the future of the potential of the organization through the conceptual work on self-structure design, and they start to fight for it as well. Not necessarily they will be able to tell the story well in the first weeks, right? As we discussed.
But they may, this whole thing, who tells the story of that mastery circle or whatever. But what I'm curious about, so again, this is my theoretical bit, because of in the music world, you have a jazz group together on stage that each of them has deep respect for each other's mastery. Mm-hmm. And that in that group like that, hey, your shit, and I know my shit, and they know their shit. So if we get all together, that makes this beautiful thing happen. And so, but it also it's respect, and it is having a commitment to adult behavior, I think, and that you have to assume that people can have the strength to have conflict with respect. That's
I think this is true, but I think this is not a critical point. I think when you compare this with jazz, you would never come to the crazy idea to bring beginners together and say, come on, this sounds it's a little bit crazy, make something like jazz. And I think in organizations this happens. It's a thinking about everyone is smart. We have so many smart people here. It's not so important who is part of the group. Everyone has his own creativity, and this leads to nothing. And it's very important to say, okay, what does every person in this group brings in? What kind of expertise? What kind of reputation? What kind of openness? Maybe not just from this company. Sometimes you combine this with people who are really fresh in an organization, coming from somewhere else, with a fresh view and another background or another experience. So, but it's always about, it has to do with mastery.
By the way, Silke, we might mention that, okay, this group has to find together and work with mastery on the subject, but also something in the white paper, in this pattern that we are discussing, we're talking about that the concept phase takes only 3 or 4 weeks. Within the 3 or 4 weeks, there are also different phases. For example, at a certain point, the design group, self-structure design work stream group, they have to start thinking about the team constellations within each cell. And will every cell work out? We had this very interestingly, we had this discussion happening at our last OpenSpace Beta client, the pharmaceutical company that shall not be named yet. Yes, that group, when I told them at a certain point, and now you have to think through each of the 70 cells, will the constellation work? Do they all have the necessary levels of mastery to do what they have to do? And when they got into that, they kind of fell in love with everybody again, reflecting and acknowledging that they didn't know so much about some people. Why don't we know anything about that guy or that gal and what she knows and can do? Why don't we love our people that much? Why are we unaware of everybody's potential? They had long discussions about this, right? And they felt kind of guilty as well, which is another reason why that group wouldn't be so capable at doing the storytelling bit, because they feel the guilt of not knowing all the time during the work. Does that make sense? So thinking through the mechanisms, the constellations of every team, in that case 70 cells, that was a lot of work, I think, that they did, and in a very compressed period of time. Yeah.
So who in the organization was involved in that design group? Was it the mastery?
It's always, I think, when you ask people in an organization who is necessary to be part of the group, you get usually from most of the people the same answers. When you ask different kind of people, I think it's clear it's part of the role of the sponsor to think serious. Okay, who has to be involved or who needs a special invitation to join the group, and from the other side the group is open, so you can just ask, and I'm interested to work in this group, so this is as well possible. But when you ask around, so for example on the prep day, so the next day after the OpenSpace 1, and you talk about the work streams and you just ask people who's necessary, then you get always the same answers, because everyone in the organization knows who are the right persons who are really deep in.
It's a question about reputation, right? In the cell structure design group, you need highest levels of reputation, and not so much you do not have to focus so much on hierarchical power or formal power or influence there. And that's related to the storytelling bit, right? Because this conceptual work, you need many people, everybody has to bring a high reputation, high understanding of the business to the table. Otherwise you won't get the work done. Yeah. And that has taken sometimes at the beginning, in the first transformation with OpenSpace Beta, it took us a little to set up that group. I think we have become a little bit better at guiding that process as well. Yeah. I remember we had conflict or trouble, let's say, not conflict, but trouble in the first case around that.
One of the other surprises that you note in the paper is the fact that finance isn't the hard part.
Yeah.
Finance isn't the hard part. It's the other folks that have the hard part. And that's an uncomfortable truth, I think. So could you talk a little bit about that?
We thought about putting it in the paper or not. But then we thought this is too good, too valuable. It's very important. It must be there, sadly. Finance is not the thickest pile of wood or the thickest piece of wood. Yeah.
I think this has all to do with cliches. I think when we think on finance, we have this kind of picture. These are people who are not so well related to the real business. They're working with figures. They are, they're a pain for all these others and all these things. And I would say in the meantime that it's not one thing is, I think the quality of the whole results depends as well how good are the people in the finance department, how open, which kind of level of expertise do they have, and this makes a lot. It's very important for the quality. So when you have good people who are open and people who are really willing and able to support this from the beginning, makes the quality of the results much more.
You get farther, you get more, you get the education accounting.
And I would say it depends from organization to organization, but I think in the meantime as well, I see as well a kind of openness and a kind of curiosity in this finance sector, really to invent themselves in a different way.
Well,
so this is something I love this. I love this kind of work when they start, for example, when they are in the middle somewhere, they have to offer kind of sessions, information to all the others, in which kind it is necessary in the future to work with different kind of figures and to have a completely different environment for any kind of controlling. So, and they love to do this, and when then they get this good feedback, and so this is something, it's really nice to see this. That now they're really colleagues. Yes. So
I think there's two things here at play. You talk the idea. The first thing that is like you have to have folks who know their shit, right? And the people who know that in the finance domain, you have that same kind of circle of masters, that high level of mastery, and folks like that. Just you think, why do you get into accounting? Why do you go into finance and things? Because you love numbers and you like to solve problems like that. If you give this is a challenging problem. No, we're talking about a different kind of accounting. A completely different kind of accounting that, okay, I'm solving that problem. Having that level of challenge, level of skill to do that, they reach that flow kind of state and talk about that. And also, so you have that value creation accounting, and then you have the fast close, like, oh, could we close that fast? Really? Ooh, how do we do that? What has to be true for us to do that? And that felt like, oh, of course, when I saw that pattern there, oh, that makes total sense, because that kind of skill is there. So Niels,
but one would expect that kind of reaction, oh, now we can put our mastery to work in beta. That should happen in that other area as well. And it's not the same dynamic, sadly, right? We do not have the whole theory. We can only observe. We can for sure observe that the pattern is different in that area than in finance.
So maybe without calling out names and thought. So if there were are there no-nos in that human resource
to tell the truth, yes, we sometimes find no-nos in that other area. That's true. Not so much in finance, again, and in that other area, which is human resources. That's true.
I think we have to,
it's not a general thing.
We have to make distinctions between the function and the people. And I think it's not about judging about people. You have in all kind of areas very serious and engaged people, and you have others who are
and also in HR, you have people who
but I think
always find people who are seriously engaged from the beginning. Or
So
it's not the issue of a whole area of function. Yeah,
I would like to express this a little bit different. I think one thing is, and this is something, it's my conclusion. It's just about experience. I think this has a lot to do. That's usually, sorry, HR people. That HR has no own problems. I think in a company, when you work with different kind of departments, they all bring in problems. They are business related. And in HR, we have these ongoing discussions, I think now in the meantime since decades, about making HR more important, bring them on the C-level, bring them more, because they are so important for change and all these things. And I think these are all wishes. I really understand this. But on the other side, I think they are not related really to the business problems. They are usually for the others too far away. And then it becomes something, it's not in every organization. It's very important to say this. Yes,
and it's not all people in HR.
That has happened always, and so it depends who's there in charge. But it becomes sometimes something about power. Yeah. So, and and then you have a different kind of game. Yeah.
Well, what is the game? Well, what is the game in that area of the business? Right? It's hiring, firing, performance management, compliance. All of those things have a formal power relationship, and
I think classic. I think classic HR is in our times, I would say it's trapped. I think on the one side, they say, oh, we are for the people, we are here for the colleagues to create something, a nice working environment, and we are on your side. And on the other side, now we are working for the C-level and to make this more efficient or whatever. So this is something, then you are trapped. Yeah. So because nobody believes you, it's clear. You cannot fulfill both roles in the same time. It's very difficult.
True, there is an ambiguity or even a schizophrenia in HR that's innate.
This is genau, and I think this is in our times is really deep in this kind of work and in this kind of transformation. This is popping up.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Well, very well explained, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, this is popping up, and the reactions are coming. I had this. I can just say what I experienced. So this comes from, oh, this is dangerous because we know the people here. We have to work on them. They are not able just to do this because we have to do development work here for the managers, for the people, to make them fit in advance.
To mature them.
Yeah, to mature them. So this is something, and everything else is very dangerous. So this is one thing. Another thing is, this is not possible because of compliance. Yeah, because I tell you this is not possible because of compliance. When you go deeper, that what kind of deeper, then it becomes a little bit that it has a lot to do with the role of HR more or less, because they're saying we are compliant because we are making the contracts or we're working with workers' council and all these things. So this has always something to do with power. So and
yeah, it has this gatekeeper. I think the gatekeeper function of HR is part of the challenge. Yeah, HR people have to overcome that gatekeeper function by themselves, just as finance people need to overcome, of course, their superiority complex. If finance people have this notion that we understand the finances and nobody else can, they are all dumb, then you have trouble as well. But we didn't find that extremely hard for finance people to get that. And in HR, I think that superiority complex, it's more it manifests itself.
Yes.
So how does that
trap and this leads to nothing, and
yes,
leads to nothing. What do you mean, that it's irrelevant, or
no, we have this kind. I had one client a little bit longer ago, and then the guy who was in charge leading this department decided to quit, going to another company. And then the people from the team, HR team, went immediately to the CEO and said, we think it's not necessary to look for a new person. We can do this alone.
The HR manager. No, we don't need an HR manager.
It was within after 60 days or in the process. And they're really nice people in this department. And then he was a little bit critical and said, okay, when you look on how many people are working here, and do you really think this? Because I think in the future we have to do more work to support our people, or no problem at all. We can make the staff organized. We have no doubt about that. And it worked well. I think after a year, I asked, can happen something? No, they are just happy. So, and this is as well. So I found this really interesting because they use this momentum to bring themselves in a new role definition.
HR people.
HR people.
Team.
This unneeded HR team use this self-organized to reinvent this own role model and to offer something different. And this worked really well.
It sounds like that absorption of responsibility, that ownership and that joy in the work, and that being able to get deeper in the work and not having someone else who's lording over it.
Sure.
That's possibly there. The other thing that came from when we were talking about just the nature of finance as problem solving and having the really working in the complicated domain, right? So that's very specifically there. And then the HR folks, oftentimes, not always and not every person, that the role of many in HR is an enforcer, that they are enforcers of the rules, and that it's not just legal compliance, it's policy compliance internally. And that some folks, I posit that the theory that they identify with that role, and that becomes, I am an enforcer. It's not that this function is enforcement, but I identify as that kind of, it's my job to enforce the rules.
Yeah, usually people, finance people wouldn't see themselves as people, but as objectivity, numbers, facts people. So it's about tidying the system. Beta is very much for them about, setting up a system that really works. Setting up the system so that people can accept the numbers and work with them and understand them. So that is reasonably easy to swallow and to accept, I think. Reasonably, for finance people, usually it's easy to wrap their heads around, this system will be much more transparent and better for everyone. And the numbers will be ready immediately, etc. Reporting will be simplified. We don't have to create so many lies in our in our
we can be more truthful and transparent.
Exactly, right? Exactly. So that's okay. That's fine. But HR people, of course, can tend to think of themselves as people, understander. We understand the people best, even better than the managers. So that it can be hard to overcome that. I want to say. And of course, in beta, in decentralization, it's important to overcome the notion that people in the center know things better. It's important to overcome the notion that people in the center know things better than people everywhere in the periphery, right? This hubris, it must be overcome. And enough talk about that topic. Please read what we have written about it in the paper, if you like. Yeah, and of course, we are open to discussing this, right? So, we can be approached. We are approachable about these topics as well. If anybody wants to learn more.
Yeah, we've probably only gone over maybe 5 or 6 of the 14 patterns.
One more. We can talk about.
But they all connect. We've been on here an hour.
Want to add something here at this point? Want to add something?
So what was your biggest surprise? If there was one learning, like why did you do this paper, and what was like, oh my God, we learned this and I have to share it. That's
a great question. Can you bring them up, the 14, the overview page?
Now I got to make it big. Oh, good Lord.
You can do it if you really want.
I got to go to the 14.
Yes. Okay, can you make it a little wider still? Oh, okay, that's good. Okay, that's good. Yeah, that's very good. So, Silke, what's your...
For me, is it
number... Frame it right? How did you frame the question?
What was the learning that you absolutely had to take forward, and that drove you, the surprise that said, we have to share this? What was...
For me, it's number 5. And Niels, for you?
I think number 10 is something that we want to... If I may start, number 10 is something that as far as I remember, when Silke worked with the first client and did the open space and did the prep day, and then she came back and told me that she had set up or figured out these work streams. And it's something that we really do not talk about in the book, right? In the handbook. There's no talk about work streams, at least as I remember. So this is something I think that Silke came up on the spot, that the prep day after the OpenSpace 1, you needed to cluster the topics from the OpenSpace, the documents, the protocols as we call them, and they had to be sorted into work streams, 4 or 5 or 6 or 7 work streams that then will be the stuff that will guide the work during the 90 days will be structured through these work streams. And I think that's something very fresh, we have, of course, perfected this a little bit, I think, Silke, over the course of the last years. Mm-hmm. And I think how to set up then the work in the work streams, I learned a lot about that in the last couple of years. I think that was I found it very essential to the work. So that would be my choice, pattern 10. In the 90 days, how to set up the work stream so that shit gets done in the 90 days. Yeah. Silke, any comment about that pattern?
No, I don't have any comment. Okay. For me, it's number 5.
You're right.
This is number 5. Okay, number 5.
I'll go back to 5.
Yeah, because this was really a learning. Because I think in the beginning, I thought to start with organization hygiene is a very good starting point for learning. Because in all companies, everyone knows what makes no sense, what is crazy. Yeah, what is not working well? What is this kind of work where nobody knows for what is this for and all these things, because everyone is talking about this. So we said, okay, we thought this is easy, everyone can help, so everyone can be involved to get rid of this. Yeah, and this is something like, this was my idea or picture. Okay, everyone wants to join or to bring something in, and then this is just the work of a week or something like that, and then we have all these pieces together. And this was wrong. This was just wrong.
I think it isn't quite wrong, because what we see, for example, now with our current client, that some things get eliminated immediately, even before the 90
Yes, I think something, but not everything. It's not something what brings people together to say, okay, come on, let's clean this up together. Yeah.
So let's find 100 things, 200.
Like a starting point for the social process where we get rid of all the things where everybody knows, and it's maybe a taboo to overcome this, because everybody knows and the consensus is really high. So, but this is not working well. We have a few very big things, sometimes before the 90 days, that the client decides, okay, for example, last week we had this, that they decided to kill a special meeting, what is very time consuming. But there is never a system on it, or it's just you begin with this, and then you see the results. Okay, you think, okay, this is not a lot. So
it's not what we would expect, right? That's, I think, the major problem, that we always think that there should be a long list of stuff going up.
No, I think we hear this and people are talking about this and they're complaining and all these things. So they say this should not a big thing, and this brings together, because come on, let's stay together and overcome this. So, and this is not happening. So, and then there was the question, okay, that on the beginning I was really frustrated. I said, okay, when they're not even able to do this, okay, what will happen with all the other things?
Maybe our client is too stupid.
Or not aware of this, or not encouraged enough, or something like that. And in the meantime, I think we learned that that it's really, really important that you're much more clearer about the new solution. Yeah, when it's clear, you have the new concept and it's close to the go live, and and a relevant number of people in the company, they are very clear about how this will work in the future. Then it's much more easier to say, okay, when we do this and this and this way, and we don't
need this crap anymore.
This and this, and it becomes really logic. And it's not, you don't need to be encouraged to say this, because it's just logic. It's easy.
In a way, the go live releases the Kraken.
Yeah, and so and that's what we learned now, to say, okay, put this a little bit down, a little bit slower. Do not. So when you see something, do this, everything where the client wants to get rid of, it's great. do it right now. But I think we put not so much effort on this to start with this as a work stream or like something like that. This happened more or less in the last 30 days. It's completely different dynamic.
Maybe that last 30 days, there's the sprint to the finish. That
yes, but you are much more clearer, and you know why. You are you can explain this. It's not about complaining. Yes.
It's about logic.
It's about logic. You can relate this to the new system. It makes sense.
At the beginning
in advance, you say I get crazy. I'm losing so much time. I do not feel productive. This is bureaucracy and all these things. These explanations. They're right. Yeah, but you cannot say just that you have this impression. I don't like it. It makes no sense for me. And I can talk about this shit every day because it drives me crazy. That's it. But this is, I found this very interesting. This does not lead to, let's overcome this. You need something new to say, okay, when we do this in this way, this whole system makes no sense anymore. So come on.
You can miss all the meetings and they don't matter.
Yes, I think meetings are something special. I think usually clients in the beginning start to reduce the number of meetings in an extreme way. Yes. And we say always, okay, just figure it out. Get rid of this for this time. And when you say, okay, I'm missing something, it's very easy to set them up in a new way. It's not, but this never happened, by the way. Okay? Never. Yeah,
those old meetings were never
easy to say,
reconstituted.
okay, it's not forever. It's just for a few weeks. Try it.
This will all blow over.
So, but I think other things, for example, when it comes how to use, for example, IT supporting systems, for example, it's more relevant.
Or to deactivate IT systems entirely. That can only happen in the last half or last third of the 90 days. It will be natural then. It will be considered too radical at the beginning, and then, right? That's what we're talking about. The organizational hygiene will become merely natural thing, consequence, matter of consequence, matter of factish. Yeah.
This actually is inspiring in looking forward into kind of more of the topics that we would go into. Is that what is the impact on the IT side of this? Because that if our old IT systems supported this other way of this alpha way, what kind of technology, what are the beta patterns for technology? Is it building within the existing systems? Is it purchasing new systems? Is it needing to beg, borrow, and steal from the budgeters to fund that? That is, to me, is very interesting because my background is from enterprise systems and supply chain systems. And if you are changing the accounts payable system and the receivables, the sales order system, all the construction stuff, well, all right, you smart beta people, what are you going to do with my IT plumbing?
Yeah. Oh, that's an interesting point that we didn't put that in the paper, but we have seen patterns. Quite a few patterns related to that, right? One obvious question is if you have a production company, for example, that has production planning, SAP production planning module or something like that, that would be deactivated. You could deactivate that kind of stuff because you simply wouldn't need it in data. Everything that's related to planning and obnoxious reporting, you can simplify a lot. Approval systems.
Some
workflows, certainly.
I'm just thinking, I think in general, I would say IT systems become more important because everything what you can use with IT support is helpful. We have just a completely different kind of discussion about this. Yeah, so
the process has become much simpler, right?
Yeah, but there was a way of clarifying and deciding this is different. It's not just, we go digital or we have the organization has to follow a IT system, what is completely stupid. It's more about okay, we have so many new solutions, we have so many developments in this area, how we can use this in the best way.
And I think that it sounds like you're saying, okay, so now the business is actually saying, we need this, we need you talk this bullshit about agile software development. We need you to build new systems to support the business needs, and that may exercise more capabilities of the existing IT systems that were kind of flabby before, that they need to be tightened up in order to do something new. Possibly. I don't know. Again, that may be something to share about, in the part 2 of the OpenSpace Beta patents.
I remember one client in Switzerland, last year, they had a couple of smaller island-like software solutions for timekeeping, invoicing, very obnoxious processes, and for scheduling and planning as well. So when they started to deactivate organizational hygiene, when they deactivated the planning side of scheduling, and when they went to just documentation of real usage of time and invoicing, they figured out, okay, we do not need that solution, but we cannot integrate this and that correctly, so we need an Excel to cross it, or a new interface. So that kind of stuff, we see it all the time, I think. Not so much in our last project, I would say, because they already had a huge system and so on. But if for smaller companies that do not have SAP or something very integrated, they might have a chance to rebuild their IT infrastructure without much effort or investment, but maybe even reducing their IT investment, or moving to a better software that seemed unusable before, because in an alpha system you need to do so much planning and scheduling and preparing that it wouldn't work. So yeah, we've seen all kinds of patterns. I think a lot of different patterns, very differentiated stuff, I think, in IT use of IT in beta and the transformation. Do you have anything to add, Silke, with that regard?
I think it goes always in this direction. Where you can use any kind of automation, do it.
Yeah.
Do it. Makes sense. Brings efficiency. And then you can concentrate on the other things where it's not possible to do this.
To automate.
Yeah.
Use the blue so you can use more of the red.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, when it's over, it's over.
Yeah. Some end notes.
Sure.
End notes. The white paper we are talking about can be found on the betacodex.org website under www.betacodex.org/white-papers, right? What else?
Yeah.
OpenSpace Beta. You can learn about OpenSpace Beta on www.openspacebeta.com. What else should we talk about? We mentioned the 5th anniversary of OpenSpace Beta recording. That's on our YouTube channel and on the Beta Codex website. Oh, great. That's what you're showing here below is the link to the white paper, specifically to this white paper we're talking about.
Yes. And you can access all the white papers at that other website that you talked about. I'll put that one up here too.
Under the white/papers link, you can find all the 21 white papers so far. Yeah, that one. So yeah, 21 white papers since 2008, and then I think most of them are very content dense and very up to date. Yeah, most of them. Not all of them, but most of them are very up to date. Silke, anything to add for people who want to learn more?
No,
By the way, we're doing this stuff with companies, right? So if you know a company or have a company that wants to transform to beta, get in touch, right? Ryan, Silke, and I would love to help.
Yes. Those of you in the US, we can do this. It's possible. It is, and it is known to work.
If Argentinians can do it, we can do it too. Silke, you want to add?
Yes, of course. I would say if Argentinians or South America or Europe is able to do this, come on, in the US, you will
come on
as well.
And Silke has done it a couple of times. So yeah, the best person to talk with about this stuff, about these the nitty-gritty work of OpenSpace Beta, I think.
And I think maybe we should add something because in the meantime, after 6 years, what we do always with pleasure, and I think not because of gaining income, is to supervise these kinds of projects. So that if people do something and they're really far away, means, for example, in another time zone, or is something what we really love to do to stabilize or to bring a little bit more, maybe safety in a process, and to help clients to do this. And this is not a problem. I think this is something what we do always. A few people maybe do not know this, so this is means not just that we do this.
You're not alone, in other words.
Yeah,
nobody
has to do this alone. They can get our supervision from Silke, from myself, and so on. Yeah. Great. Is that it? Something missing? And the OpenSpace Beta Handbook, of course, it's available in its 3rd edition already. So we revised that twice.
Right, I'm gonna do what they do at the Oscars, and I'm gonna play us out with some. See if we have that music there. Is it there? Music? Hello, music. Hi.
No music.
All right,
like
no music. The stupid streaming. All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
This has been delightful. Always delightful with you, Silke. And Niels, always a pleasure. Lacking music, I'm going to just go ahead and say thank you so much for the precious gift of your time and attention. Be more beta, and it's possible, folks. We can do it here. We can do it everywhere. Beta for the world. Fantastic. All right. Check you later. It's going to stream.